Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you're well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more Reddit stories, and if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting that like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too, and let's crack on with today's first story. Much love guys. Now today's first story comes from the Am I the Arsehole subreddit and says, am I the arsehole for not letting my stepmother meet my daughter? Myself, 33 female, and my husband, 38. Have a 3-month-old daughter. My stepmother is strictly prohibited from approaching me and my baby, and consequently my father refuses to see his granddaughter without his wife. For context, my stepmother had a clandestine abortion in her youth and had severe complications, which left her infertile. When she married my father, she immediately came to see me and my siblings as our children, being very pushy and invasive and wanting to outdo our mother, who is alive and present in our lives. Even when we were kids, the situation made us uncomfortable, and our obsession with motherhood and being our only mother scared us and drove us away completely. My father, wanting her to be happy, started trying to force us to call her mummy. Eventually our mum got our custody and we moved across the country. Over the years and the physical distance, my relationship with them became more tolerable. There were occasional problems, such as the fact that she wanted to be mentioned as a mother in the wedding invitations, or when she tried to adopt my niece after my sister-in-law's death, declaring that my brother was unable to raise his daughter. Before the pandemic, she and my father moved to my state, something common for retirees. She started posting photos of my ultrasounds and baby clothes with captions like, "Looking forward to my baby's arrival," or "At last entering the journey of motherhood." I scolded her and demanded that she delete the posts, and then the physical harassment began. As we live in the same condominium, she started to come to my house several times a day to check me, fight with me about what I ate, and set up a complete nursery in her house, telling me that the baby would need to spend the first few days with someone more experienced to take care of him. When we found out it was a girl, she immediately started saying that finally her Christina would come and how her dream would finally come true. I immediately denied this would be my daughter's name and made it clear that she would not be a mother figure to my baby. My stepmother then reminded me that a lot can happen during childbirth and that it was better that my SO and I understood that she and my father were prepared for any eventuality, and that I couldn't be cruel and deny her the closest thing she'd ever have to a daughter, since I didn't accept being her daughter. After that and other comments and actions, my husband and I decided to take some action in case she tried something. And now, 3 months after my baby was born, my father refuses to visit his granddaughter, even though we live close together, as I don't allow his wife to play mother and daughter with her. I understand that she has frustrated maternal instincts, but my daughter is not her replacement baby. So Reddit, am I wrong? And I think, like we've seen in a couple of stories like this in the past, the behaviour around it all is deeply concerning. You know, the setting up the nursery and insisting the newborn should stay with her, posting the ultrasounds claiming it's her baby, her already having a name for the child like it's hers. It's obvious what's happening, that she's trying to claim the baby as hers before the baby's even born. It's not healthy or safe behaviour for her to be around that child, because that's what's the priority here, yours and your daughter's safety, and that basically trumps everyone else's feelings in it. You know, it's tragic what happened to her, and you know, I do feel sad for her. She's clearly going through a lot herself, but she needs help, and it doesn't excuse her behavior on you. Hedwig Bug says this is terrifying. At the very least, I would get a restraining order, so that would at least help to squash any false CPS claims. She's probably desperate knowing how close the baby is to her, so she probably hasn't shown you her full crazy yet. Also, I'd move ASAP. I know that it's so easy for internet strangers to say this, but you guys are essentially prisoners in your house. You'll never feel comfortable going for a walk in your own neighborhood or even casually stopping to grab the mail. I live in Florida, and there are a lot of great places. Even if it's nearby, you at least need to get out of that neighborhood. Not the arsehole times a million. But OP included their updates within the same post, so you know, some of the comments were mixed up in this, so we're going to go straight to the first update, and says, my husband and I hardly slept that night. Partly because we've been reading your answers, and partly because a 3-month-old baby sleeps as little and breastfeeds as much as possible. Thanks to you, I was able to see that my father will never protect his children, especially if it means putting limits on my stepmother. But the big point, the straw who broke the camel's back, was what happened this morning. As I work from home and my husband owns his own company, we decided to streamline the moving process. What was our surprise to find our stepmother in tears at our gate, properly locked, screaming and begging for my forgiveness, and claiming that all she wanted was love, happiness, and that I have no right to deny anything so small for her. For me, it was like coming out of shock. After threatening to call the police, my father finally came and took his wife home. Immediately, I called my stepfather, and he and my mother came to pick us up. I was glad he came, as he is a very intimidating man as well as being a retired police officer. We've packed a few essentials, and the three of us will be staying at my mum's house for now. She lives in an apartment with plenty of space and 3 levels of security to allow access. We're in contact with our attorney, who will refer us to someone who specializes in family status, and we will seek to get a restraining order under our old address. P.S. to someone who asked me in private. My sister-in-law's death was caused, according to the police report, by an alleged mechanical failure in a car. At the time, with the whole situation going on with my brother and niece, I never really went into the matter. And for the other person who asked, my mother is Chilean, but she has lived in the United States since she was 20 years old. She is an American citizen legally speaking, whereas my stepfather, father, and stepmother are all North American by birth. I have dual nationality. Update 2. Well, it's been 2 weeks since my original post, and I felt compelled to let you know who supported and advised me so much. A lot happened, but I will try to summarize. We blocked my dad and stepmother from phones and social media. Unfortunately, this only made the situation worse. My stepmother began to speak ill of me to anyone who would listen. Our neighbors, friends, family members, and even our church priest. The last few days have been a campaign, but thank God people were able to see her insanity, and she ended up losing a lot of important people. We put our house up for sale, and we are currently in the process of purchasing an apartment in my mother's building. Enhanced security is an attraction, in addition to the fact that items such as fingerprints are required for access. The garage also requires an access code, and this makes the building very secure. Following recommendations, we've taken our cars for a review and we're in the process of getting a restraining order based on the evidence we already have, such as audio and video of my stepmother's behaviour. I completely cut off contact with my father, and my brothers did the same. As for the possibility of my stepmother calling the CPS, when my husband went to get the rest of our belongings 5 days ago, along with my brother-in-law and father-in-law, my stepmother said that stealing her baby would not go unpunished, and she would show it to everyone in the world that the two of us weren't good parents, and that we were prepared because she wouldn't give up her baby. According to my father-in-law, her expression and speech caught the attention of the neighbors, and some of them assured my husband that they supported us, including noting a rapid and dangerous mental decline. The fact that my father did nothing to stop this episode ended up sealing the end of our relationship. And so, this is the update so far. My mother and I only walked along the shore accompanied by my stepfather, who is now constantly armed, and he assured me that he would end my stepmother's existence before she steals his granddaughter. I still can't sleep properly, and I'm paranoid about the baby monitor, doors and windows, even though my mum lives on the 15th floor. Because of this, I'm actively seeking a therapist, and my husband and I are closer and closer than ever. We review all the legal issues regarding our wills and the custody not only of our little girl, but also of any baby we have in the future. For now, that's it. Thank you for all the support, advice, criticism, and immense help. I promise to inform you of any news. Wow, that is absolutely terrifying. And there was that comment that said stealing a baby won't go unpunished, actively threatening OP. That is really scary. And that she's willing to, set up a smear campaign against OP to everyone that will listen. And the fact that the neighbors are even noticing how dangerous she's becoming is just absolutely scary. And the fact that the father is enabling this kind of behavior as well, he has to be cut off. There's no way about it. And I just wonder if they could have got some sort of paper trail started at some point along the line. I know a lot of the time whenever I mention the police, they're like, they're never any help. But just getting it documented just in case, again, I don't know, different places, different locations, people's different experiences with it. But what do you guys make of this situation? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below, and let's move on to another story. Now, our next story comes from We Want Prenup 44 and says, am I the arsehole for insisting my sister gets a prenuptial agreement? My sister and I are property investors who own 6 investment properties together. I know how the internet feels about evil landlords, so spare me that please, that's not why I'm here. We started with one house to live in, then bought lots of cheap houses and flipped them for rental income. We're doing well financially because of said houses. My sister is getting married. Wedding is later this year. Pandemonium dependent. I'm helping her plan and we were going through a to-do list, seeing what's left to be done. She mentioned caterers, venue, invites, etc. and asked if she'd forgotten anything. I said yes, prenup. And we both sang We Want a Prenup, yeah, like the Kanye song, and then laughed. She moved on to the next item without actually addressing it. I leave it for then and we go our separate ways. I text her later in the evening. Hey, my friend used a really good lawyer to draw her prenup, so let me know if you want me to ask for her deeds. She replied she thought I was joking. She's not asking her husband to sign a prenup. I replied I wasn't joking and I must insist he signs one. She calls and says it's not my place to insist. I say it is when our assets are tied together. She asked me if I'm trying to say something about her future husband. I say I'm trying to be realistic and smart if it all goes to hell. She starts yelling at me about being rude, jinxing her marriage before it began, yada yada yada. I say either she gets a prenup or we transfer all the property to my name, and I get one if I ever get married, then I hang up. We're being bombarded by family saying her future husband is a good guy who would never do that if they separated. He sent me a text admonishing me for hurting my sister and calling him a gold digger. He thought I liked him. I'm not backing down on this. Am I the arsehole for how I went about it or wanting one? ETA, this has gotten far bigger than I anticipated. Thanks for your input and comments. Delivery wasn't the best, I concede. I'll be getting in touch with a conveyancing solicitor soon to help protect our assets. I'm kind of wondering what business they actually have, because surely a prenup doesn't actually cover that anyway. I kind of wonder if they're already part of a limited partnership, something along those lines, which will sort that out anyway. And I kind of feel like if they're not in some kind of LLC or limited company, that's what they should be doing rather than focusing on this prenup. And I kind of wonder how they got to that position in the first place without any of this. It sounds like, it's to have 6 investment properties without any legal stuff going on like that. Crazy. I'm no expert at this sort of stuff though, so don't listen to me. But K-Matt says, no one's an arsehole here. Have you seen a lawyer about your options though? Surely there's some agreement you and your sister could sign that would at least protect half of your things. You're not the first person whose business partner has gotten married. Glaxon says, if you want to be smart with your business, be smart with your business. A prenup for someone else's marriage isn't necessary. Talk to a business lawyer about getting paperwork written up that states that if she gets divorced, your portion of the profits doesn't get touched. However, it needs to be worded to protect the business. Make sure you have the proper protections in place for your business instead of demanding your sister do something that's not your decision. You're the arsehole. Fuzzy Mike says you're the arsehole. If your assets are not protected from folly from her part of the business, then you haven't done your personal due diligence. Your arrangement with your sister should be structured as such that you are protected no matter who owns or is controlling her share. Dogmum says, as someone who's been divorcing people for over 12 years, not the arsehole. I would, like others have said, talk to an attorney to figure out all the possible circumstances. Consult with one that knows what they're doing and do research on them. And one more comment which says, overall not the arsehole, although I think your delivery could have been handled better. Anyone that enters into marriage with assets, especially assets shared with another person, absolutely should get a prenup. No one gets married thinking they get divorced, and you can never be sure how people will change over time. People don't pay for car insurance planning on getting into a wreck. It's there just in case something goes wrong and ensures everything will be taken care of. Your sister is letting her emotions rule her thinking on this, and she needs to have a reality check done in the kindest and most diplomatic way possible. Just jumping back in as well, there was a part of that first part of the story that I really didn't like it at the same time when, he phoned up and he was saying, "Oh, you're calling me a gold digger. I thought you liked me," kind of thing. If I was in his position, I would totally understand where the OP would be coming from in this situation. I think you should be protecting your assets as well. You never know how a divorce will get. I know everyone says, we're never going to split up, etc. But it happens, right? And you are best to protect yourself in this situation. But at some point later, OP did come in with an update and says original post on my profile, short and sweet update. It's been about 6 weeks since everything went down. I need to clarify a few things. I can't afford to buy her out, so that's not an option. She also doesn't want to sell because our long-term investments are for us. It wasn't a case of we each own 50-50 in the properties. Between us, we know that's the case. However, legally, sometimes I own 75% to her 25% and vice versa because of our financial standing at the time we purchased the properties. I would stand to lose a lot if her marriage went south because some of the more expensive properties she holds more equity in. The properties that have been paid off. We've been able to change the deeds, but those still mortgaged are that way at the bank's insistence. We have transferred all the properties into a trust. It is a legal protection that outlines how everything is split, including clarifications on who owns how much. It says that spouses are not entitled to anything related to the houses. We've also decided to end our business ventures together. We'll keep managing the properties, but we won't buy any more together for the sake of the relationship. We're doing okay. Still not as it were, but that is to be expected, I guess. Her husband-to-be is still withdrawn around me, but honestly, I don't care. Their wedding is going ahead as planned, later this year hopefully. Thanks to all who offered advice. The laws in my country are a little different, but we found a solution. Update over, short and sweet. And one comment on this one says, "Ugh, I hate the crap about how it's mistrust to get a prenup. It's common sense, and in your case, it's not just your sister's property and wealth at risk. People change, especially if there is a divorce. My ex has done things that absolutely have shocked me since I filed for divorce. The money was all mostly his, from his work. We were both dead broke students when we got together, but he's treated our kids like crap. There is no doubt in my mind whatsoever that if I had any assets before we married, he would have taken everything he could get. Just to be mean because I wouldn't let him screw anyone he felt like and stay married. He's not the person I married. And if your sister's fiance really had no interest in your properties, he'd sign the prenup. Same for anyone else asked to sign one. I'd sign in a minute if I met someone new that had assets to protect, without feeling at all insulted. 50% or more of marriages end in divorce, no matter how much in love people think they are when they say their vows. It's just life, and they need to grow up. Swiggy replies to that saying, "I used to be very anti-prenup. Now I think it should be standard. To my currently very tired and regularly mediocre brain, I understand marriage to be a contract. You sign a license and file it with your country. There are rules and stipulations to acquiring the license and filing it. It makes sense to view it as the legal document it is. People do change. You're very right. A prenup protects both parties." Mira replies to that saying, "Yeah, I think I read once our Reddit thread about what made lawyers quit or what's the worst they have seen, and the unanimous answer was divorce and family law. Exes fighting for their partner's beloved pets just to put them down. Families tearing itself apart for some inheritance or assets, etc. Nobody thinks about divorcing when getting married, but still more than half of the marriages end in divorce, and that's just a fact one shouldn't ignore. The only reason why me and my husband don't have a prenup, we did discuss it, is because the only asset we have is a 10-year-old car. But this case, OP had legit worry, because not only their sister's life could be messed up, OP's could be too. I would not want to be friends with sister's husband, not gonna lie." And one final comment that says, "I'm glad you found a solution. To be honest, I don't trust anyone who gets mad about a prenup. My partner and I have discussed marriage and I made it clear I want a prenup. I'm not wealthy, but I own a business with extremely high income potential, and while I would want him provided for if we were to divorce, I don't want to be taken for a ride if things end badly. And he totally got it. No arguments, no, I'd never do that to you, why would you want a prenup? Just, I know you'd feel more secure if we had a prenup. I understand wanting to protect yourself, and I'd be happy to sign one. I hope your sister's marriage is a happy one. But considering future husband accused you of calling him a gold digger when you were literally just trying to protect both of you doesn't sound particularly promising. But now, I'm going to turn this one to you guys. What do you guys make of this situation? How would you deal with it if it was you? Would you feel insulted about someone asking you for a prenup or not? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. Now, just a huge thank you for being here today, getting involved in the stories, your love, your support, your time. It always means the absolute world to me. So thank you so much for being here today, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Take care and much love.